Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast. I am your host, published author, and PhD candidate, Josias Abriel. Before we get started, folks, just a couple quick announcements. One, the show is now accepting donations. We need to get a new laptop to continue the show. So I have a Cash App in the episode description below. You just click on the link tree and you can donate. Anything helps. There's this used laptop that I was looking at, and it's about $600 something. So that I will be needing to get that to. I found like the best and cheapest used laptop to be able to record the show, because the current laptop, she's dying on us, folks, and the software and the updates, it's starting to do its thing again. So if you would like to donate to help the show out, please do so. Anything helps. Also, if you are listening on YouTube, give this a like. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give this a 5-star rating. It will help the algorithm. I do need 10 more 5 stars to continue the show. So if you could please do that, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Alrighty, folks. So today we have a brand new guest, Craig. Craig, welcome to the Vulnerability Time podcast. And I'm especially excited and been looking forward to Craig's interview. So I'll let Craig share a little bit about him. But folks who followed the show from last summer to now, y'all know I've been getting more interested in past life. Oh, let me not spoil it.
Oh,
But
yeah, you just let the cat out of the bag.
right.
Because hey, we got some cool stuff coming up, but yeah, we got today. We're talking, and we're going to talk in about 2 or 3 weeks again.
Yes.
And I mean, since you just kind of threw it out there, I'm a hypnotherapist, and my training is in clinical hypnotherapy, meaning I work with people with their past trauma or hurt or pain, or if somebody's struggling with anxiety or anger or fears. Traditionally, a lot of people know hypnotherapy from quitting smoking or fear of flying and things like that. And of course, it's
Mhm.
very, very helpful and useful for that. It can go way, way deeper than that. I've worked with people in their 70s and 80s are resolving hurt and pain they received from trauma and abuse in
Mhm.
childhood. So, even if they've been holding on to it for some 60, 70 years, the subconscious mind is allowed to release it. And these tools and techniques under the umbrella term of hypnotherapy
Mhm.
are extraordinary in helping with that. Now, there's another aspect of this, and we'll get to that in the kind of part 2 interview in a few weeks. There's a more spiritual side of this as well. And what's interesting about these techniques is they help you access these altered states of consciousness, and that's not a dangerous term. That's just a term used to you know define those brainwave states of the alpha, theta, and delta brainwave states.
Mhm.
Now, these are states you move into all day long. The brain cannot be in that conscious awareness all day long. However long you're awake, the 16, 17, 18 hours that you are awake during the day, you can't be in the beta brainwave state all the time. Your mind drifts off, it wanders away. And it's really just how fast the brain is processing information. So really, really quickly, kind of the biology of this, or the neuroscience, I guess, of it, is that when you're in conscious awareness, consciously aware of this present moment, this, the task at hand, like we're having this conversation. Josias and I are having this conversation. We're in the present moment. We're listening to each other.
Yes.
We're firing about 18, 20 cycles per second in the beta brainwave state.
Mhm.
And if you've ever seen those YouTube videos of the electrical storm in the brain, somebody's performing an action, thinking a thought, feeling emotion, there's an electrical storm, lightning storm in the brain. How fast that electrical storm happens determines what brainwave state you're in. Now, if it gets slower, the mind drifts off. It's like you're in a meeting at work. You remember back in school. Maybe you remember high school math class. Your mind just drifts off and wanders away because you're not interested in what the teacher's talking about. Teacher's still talking. Kids are still asking questions and acting out and whatever, but you're staring out the window thinking about the weekend, how much fun you're going to have with your friends. You're going on vacation. You're thinking about the vacation you took last year. You're at that meeting at work, and it maybe doesn't pertain to you in your department, or it's just boring, or where you start thinking about the project that's due next week at work or something. You're driving home, or you're driving to the store, you're driving to work, and you don't remember the last minute or two, and because your mind drifted off. Your subconscious mind took over driving, knows how to drive, and knows how to drive to work, knows how to drive to the store, knows how to drive home. So your subconscious mind takes over, like it knows how to ride a bicycle and walk down the street and tie your shoes. Took over driving, and your mind wandered away and started thinking about you got people coming over the weekend or something. Well, you just altered your state of consciousness. You just slowed down how fast your brain is processing information. You moved into the alpha brainwave state for about 12 cycles per second. Went from 18 down to 12 cycles per second. You know, that hazy state. You're not really asleep, not really awake. The theta brainwave state, firing about 6 cycles per second. Sleep, REM sleep, where your eyes are darting around and maybe you're dreaming. That's 1/2 cycle per second. That alpha, theta, delta brainwave states between somewhere around 12 and 1 cycle per second, that's known as the hypnagogic trance state. That's a fancy term. It's just hypnosis, just brainwave state, altered state of consciousness. Let's say I'm back in high school math class. I go through all of that. I'm about to fall asleep, and the teacher sees me and says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And I startle myself kind of awake, and I'm looking around, and everybody's staring at me, and I'm embarrassed, and I don't know how to do the problem on the board. I wasn't paying attention, and now I'm really super stressed. Well, now I'm firing about 30 cycles per second because I'm in the stress response. I'm in the fight or flight response. Well, I just altered my state of consciousness like 3 or 4 times in a matter of 10 minutes because I got bored in high school math class and I started to fall asleep after daydreaming about my weekend. So this is something natural and normal that all human beings do. We can all do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's fascinating about this, we can also move even a little bit deeper and move into more spiritual states. We'll talk about that in the part 2. But that's where it comes from. And it's very trendy. It's very popular with the ayahuasca ceremonies. You can go to Malibu or you go to Austin or wherever one goes. You can take a flight down to South America, maybe even with a package tour to go to some shaman's retreat and do an ayahuasca ceremony or do peyote or whatever people do, maybe more chemistry instead of plant medicine. You're doing more psychedelics or something like that. Well, what if you could have more control over it than that? And that's what this therapeutic hypnosis can help you do on a more spiritual side, a more clinical side of the more trauma and things. There's the entertainment side, of course, where people are up on stage doing silly things. But understand this isn't about control.
Yeah, right.
It's about giving you back control. This isn't brainwashing. It's not mind control. It's not turning people into Manchurian candidates where they can, go out and assassinate the prime minister. You can't make people do things they don't want to do. That's why smoking cessation is not a 100% guarantee. You can't make people quit smoking if they don't want to quit smoking.
Right.
I can't hypnotize my way into the United Nations and hypnotize all the world leaders to create world peace. I'd be the guy. I'd be the guy that created world peace. They'd erect statues to me, and they'd celebrate my birthday as an international holiday, sing songs to me. I'd be the guy who created world peace, but I can't do that because there's a situation in the world where people don't want world peace.
Right.
So I can't make them do that. This isn't about controlling others. It's about giving you back control, because when people are struggling with anxiety, they might not even know why. But they probably don't know why. And the subconscious mind understands the situation. Like a very, very good example of this is fear of flying. Now, maybe somebody's flown for 30 years for business or whatever, and because of some really bad turbulence that they went through, a really frightening experience, now they have this fear of flying. Well, they're not afraid of watching TV or driving down the street or that meeting at work or going out to dinner with their significant other. They get that panicky state about flying, maybe days ahead of time, maybe purchasing the ticket a month in advance, maybe walking into the airport. Maybe it's not until they sit down in the seat and buckle the seatbelt. There's a specific situation in which the subconscious mind knows to flood the body with adrenaline and cortisol and turn on the alarm systems of that feeling state of anxiety. So it knows when to do it. And even if somebody is struggling with anxiety that's pretty chronic, it seems to be happening all the time. I guarantee you it is not.
Mm,
And the whatever 16, 17, 18 hours of wakefulness, there are times during the day when that person is not anxious.
mm.
Subconscious mind knows when to turn it on. It may just be at the end of the day watching TV or in the morning exercising or lunch with a friend or whatever. The subconscious mind knows when to turn it on and turn it off. It's that powerful.
Mm.
This may be out of control. So this gives you back control. So that's um, me talking for a good, 15 minutes, going off on all that tangents. But it's a nice introduction to like the power of the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And not only for more healing in this current realm, but even accessing maybe more spiritual states as well.
Yes. Well, Craig, two things. One, it's vulnerability time. We can tangent if we want to. You got a very listening, like you got a podcaster voice. Like it's
Oh, thank
very
you.
listenable. And it wasn't 15 minutes, it was 8 minutes.
Okay, good,
So
good.
you're fine. You're fine. But delve a little bit. Well, I do have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
Um, well, just to give folks a small sneak peek, folks, our part two will be the past life regression
yeah,
about it, right? So I'm gonna get that done. So folks know that I know one of my past lives on this earth, but I don't know the ones elsewhere.
yeah.
So I want to get that done. And so um
So you
I will.
already got something set up, right? You're working with
Mhm.
somebody, and we'll have a nice conversation about that. That'll be fun.
Yes, and I will share everything for the first time out loud and with Craig on part two, whenever that is. That'll be me and Craig are recording July 14th. It'll probably be released probably a few days after that. So 2, 3 days after that. I'm gonna get that one out pretty quick. But so yes, that's but for those who, well, I guess I'll start off with this question first. Why hypnotherapy? Why did you always fascinated about that as a kid? Like, how did you get on
Yeah.
that path? Beautiful
Um,
path, by the
that's a
way.
really good question, and it was a slow drip.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was a long widening of my worldview. And by the time this is released, I'll have crossed my 59th birthday. And this
Nice.
kind of started back in high school when I was about 14, 15 years old. I was struggling a lot with anxiety and depression. And this is the 1980s. I graduated high school in 1985. And if you do the timeline of that, there's no internet.
Hmm.
There's no SSRI medications like Prozac or
Cymbalta.
Zoloft, things like that.
Yeah.
Really, in 1985, all you had was whatever book you could find in the bookstore or the library, or whatever talk therapist you might find in the phone book. Let your fingers do the walking through the yellow pages. Yeah, or you could ask your 15, 14-year-old friends at lunch what talk therapist they're going to. But you're not going to do that. You're not going to do any of that
Right.
because you don't know any better.
Right.
Certainly, this isn't talked about. There was shame in it.
Hmm.
You certainly didn't put it out there that you're struggling.
Right.
And it's not a man thing. It's not a masculine thing. It's not a machismo thing. It's not an alpha male thing. It was just like you just didn't talk about it. It
Right.
was just the culture
Right.
back then. Just society, not even culture, I guess, but more society. You just didn't talk about your feelings
Right.
or being depressed or anxious or anything. And you felt like an outsider because you could see other people are happy,
Hmm.
people are doing well, and it just didn't fit my life and my experience of life. And so, as you know, so I graduated in '85, and as we kind of move into the 1990s, the personal development movement started kind of the second resurgence, the second wave, maybe the third wave. And Tony Robbins, people probably listening know, heard of Tony Robbins. His big book came out I mean, he started in the 80s, but his big book came out in late 80s, early 90s, Waken the Giant Within. He became like a superstar. Oprah Winfrey, her show went into the stratosphere. She became a superstar because she focused more on the positive. She went
Hmm.
away from the sensationalist stuff Jerry Springer stuff she was doing in season 1 and 2, and went more positive and became a
Mhm.
superstar. All these other people in that self-help personal growth movement, and the internet's coming out. 1996, 1997, we got our 14.4 modems,
Mhm.
hooked them up to our phone lines, and took 12 hours to download a picture and all that. And in the early 90s, mid 90s, Prozac comes out,
Mhm.
and Zoloft and all those drugs. Prozac was on the cover of Newsweek magazine. If people remember magazines back in the day, well, it was actually on the cover of Newsweek, and you could talk about it.
Mhm.
How about with your doctor? You can go to parties and things and hang out with your friends. It's like, oh yeah, I saw yeah, it's Prozac. I'm thinking about taking it. I asked my doctor about it. I've been struggling. You realize everybody's struggling with depression,
Yeah.
and the conversation opened up, and there's these things called blog posts now, and people are writing about their experiences and the research that they have done, and there's forums. You can have these kind of weird written conversations with people, and it was all very new, and all this information is being dropped into everybody's laps. And one of the things I kept hearing about was hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy. Like there'd be like an article, maybe in a magazine or on the blog
Right.
post.
Mhm.
And at the end, it'd be, oh, here's the 5 things you can do to change your life. And one of them would always be hypnotherapy. And so after a while, I was like, okay, everybody's talking about hypnotherapy as this way to access the subconscious mind, kind of this access the placebo effect,
Mm.
mind healing mind. And so I looked for somebody finally, and now we're in the early 2000s. So you can see already this is like 15 years
Yeah.
of learning and growing and trying to figure out my life and trying to get better. And in the early 2000s, I started using hypnotherapy, and I saw great results. I really started taking back control of my life and feeling better and doing some great healing work and resolving a lot of stuff in my life.
Yeah.
And in about 2010 or so, my son was born in 2000,
Mhm.
and he'd been going to school for a while. And me and a couple of the other parents were just like, "Hey, what are we going to do to change the world? Let's go out there and let's make a difference." And so we started a mastermind group, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't know. They kind of had their ideas on what they wanted to do to change the world and how to do it, and what kind of business to create around that. And I didn't really know, but I saw that there was a writing contest uh, for Hay House. It's actually their imprint Hierophant, but it's basically Hay House. And the grand prize was a publishing contract.
Mhm.
And so joined this contract. It was kind of big money. And I'd never written a book. I didn't have a book. I'm guessing most of the people joining the contest already had their book. And so he had to drop them a chapter through email. He had to drop them a chapter every month. And so he started with 500 people, and then you went down to 200 people, and then you went down to 75 people, and then 35, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was like a 6 month contest. He just kept sending them. So I'm writing, working full time, family, and all my in between times of doing all this research and writing my chapters and submitting them. I keep getting bumped into the next realm or whatever of the contest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to the very end of it. I got into the top 10, and that's where they picked the one person. But afterward, I didn't win, but the one of the judges or people associated with the contest, they emailed me afterwards, and we were having a back and forth, and said that I came in a close second, and that was very encouraging.
Yeah.
And and so I just kind of started down that path. I self-published it because I didn't have an agent or all that stuff, but you could do that kind of thing and get it up out in the world. But this was before Amazon was really doing that, so you kind of had to do it on your own website. And I created a telesummit, and the telesummit led to this new thing, podcast. And so I started my own podcast, and after a while, it just I was learning so much about consciousness and healing and mind, and I just hypnotherapy helped me so much. I decided, I'm going to train to be a hypnotherapist. So I went to this great school, Hypnotherapy Academy of America, 500 hours of extraordinary training, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday in school. This isn't video training. There's a lot of hypnotherapists out there. They got like a 24 hours worth of training, like over a 3-day weekend
Mhm.
videos. And so this is in school, in the 500 hours, but the last 100 hours is past life regression, because the other aspect of my life that was super important to me was spirituality.
Hmm.
Because I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and people might know that as Catholicism light. It's got the robes and the candles and the Eucharist, and they broke away from the Pope. The English did, and created their own church, the Protestant Church. But while I was kind of born in the Episcopal Church, because I was a church up the road, if the church was Methodist, we would have been Methodist. If the church was Lutheran, we would have been Lutheran.
Hmm.
Aliens, and that's, we could walk to churches 5 blocks away. That's what you did in the 60s, 70s. You just went, more of a social thing. Not that my parents were super religious; it was just a social thing.
Right. It's great. Build social capital. Yes.
Yeah, and then I started going to a private school from 6th grade to 12th grade. I went to a Baptist-run school, and again, it's not that my parents were super religious. It's just that back in the day, private school was supposed to be better than public school.
Right.
Private school happened to be run by Baptists. So Monday through Friday, I was getting indoctrinated into the Baptist philosophies and theologies of the world. Bible class every day and chapel at least once a week. And then, on evenings and weekends and things, I'd be hanging out with my friends who went to the Episcopal Church. We do youth group stuff at church and go to church on Sundays. And so, kind of from day one to about 18, 19 years old, it was church.
Hmm.
So I equated a lot of the sunshine, sun shining through the gray clouds, the dark clouds, with spirituality
Hmm.
and religion. And so that became the focal point. Other people might have numbed themselves with alcohol or pills or whatever, too much TV, or I don't know what
Hmm.
happened back in the 70s and 80s. That was probably it, just a handful of things.
Right.
I did it with spirituality and religion, joined the charismatic movement. It was just because the rays of sunlight that broke through the dark clouds came through the mountaintop experiences of spiritual, church retreats and, you
Hmm.
know, I don't know, whatever, music, concerts, Christian rock, whatever.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so the two kind of aspects of my life that informed me growing up was religion and spirituality and depression and anxiety. And the one thing that kind of involves both of those and helps with both of those is hypnotherapy. And so it just seemed like a natural fit that further, down the line,
Yeah.
that I actually studied and trained to become a hypnotherapist, because it fits both aspects of my life. I can help other people in those
Yeah.
in those ways. And so that is kind of like, again, this slow jump, a slow walk up the mountain. Not a quick, there's another 8 minutes of, my 40 years, basically, you know,
Yeah.
40 years of my life, up to talking to you today. And it was, a slow march towards now, but, everything kind of, as I look back, informs where I am right now.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, and it was just, again, it was just like that slow widening of my worldview.
Yeah.
When you're a little kid, just like, okay, this is the way the world is. And then as you learn and grow and you learn about,
Right. Right.
the rest of the world and how other people think and their philosophies and theologies and spirituality and
Yeah.
about the world itself. And it's like, okay, well, now this puzzle piece fits in, and, here I am, I guess.
Something that you said, thank you, by the way, for sharing.
Mhm.
Um, Something that you said made me think about something. So, healing, it's very broad in the
Okay.
fact that, like, physical healing, mental healing, the nervous system, healing relationships, healing
Yeah.
outlooks, things like that. So, would you also say that healing is also spiritual?
Oh, yeah, 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 definitely. Because I think in and of itself, all that makes us. Those aren't separate things. We can define it and
Right.
separate it, but it's sort of like, this might not be the greatest analogy, but it's like making a cake.
Mhm.
It's like, well, it's the flour, the milk, the eggs, all that's making the cake. It's not one thing.
Mhm.
And if you leave out the eggs, well, then you don't have a very good cake. If you leave out the flour, you don't have a very good cake at all. And so it's the mental, it's the emotional, it's the physical, it's the spiritual. Um,
Mm,
and there's aspects of it. It's like when we do past life regression work, and this will
mhm,
get in more detail the next time, part two. But there's this aspect of moving up into that spiritual realm, that spirit realm, soul life, what Michael Newton in his book Journey of Souls calls life between lives, where we incarnate again here on earth. So you're more just spirit. But when we're here having this human experience, it's all of that, you know.
mm,
And it's one of those things where you're driving the car. You need the tires, the steering wheel, the seats, the engine, uh, the gas tank or the batteries, whatever. And if one of those things is missing, you're not going anywhere.
right.
And if one of those things is off, you may be pulling to the right because your tires are out of are off, or you're just because your engine is not working well. If one of those things is off, it's not going to work very well. So it all has to work together.
Yeah,
That's the maybe frustrating thing about being human is with the busyness of life, we can't always check in mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
right.
And
Mm,
mentally, emotionally, you may be doing great, but you sit behind a desk all day
mm,
and it's been really, crazy at work and you've been working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and you don't get to move your body. So now physically you feel off.
mm,
Or you eat junk food because you need that quick carbs and the quick sugar
yeah,
to keep you going. And you're drinking too much caffeine, so you're not sleeping well at night. And so all of a sudden the physical part's
mm,
off. Or maybe the physical part's fine. You're going to the gym, you're working out, you're doing yoga, you're doing whatever. The mental game's fine, but maybe you lost somebody close to you in your life.
right.
You just passed away or something. Good friend moved away and you won't be seeing them again.
Mhm,
And emotionally, that hurts. The grief of that, the loss of that hurts. And so that aspect of it, maybe there's a spiritual issue of you used to have a great connection
yeah.
with Source, the universe, with God,
Mhm,
and now you don't for whatever reason, and you may be hurting spiritually. So
mm,
any one of those things may take the car off into the ditch.
right.
The motor not running right, the tires not being aligned, the batteries being out of charge. Any one of those things, the steering wheel comes off in your hands. Any one of those things, all of a sudden now the car's not moving
Yeah.
or not moving well. And same with that thing you just talked about. Any one of those aspects, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, any one of those things is off slightly. It's not going to make life very fun,
Right.
you know. And it may
Mm,
make life a little bit more of a chore.
right.
But
Mm,
it's just kind of the life. I mean, sometimes work's a pain in the ass.
yeah, yeah.
People in our life are going to pass away,
Right,
you know,
right.
and it's just it's the experience of being human, I guess.
Yeah. And we do see that this is where the sociologist comes out a little bit in me, folks. Capitalist systems, whether a country claims to be communist or claims to be socialist, it's not true because capitalism, if capitalism's there, the system. Anyways, but capitalist systems, capitalist societies, I'm not bashing folks living in because I'm in America. I live in, this is a capitalist system. We are discussing in class how, the capitalist system makes it very, very, for folks to be able to prioritize holistic healing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love what you said. First of all, your analogies, it wasn't a bad analogy. It made sense to me. You were very articulate um, of how healing is so holistic,
Hmm.
not necessarily like exclusive. And so I'll just speak for me. In my life, once upon a time, I was focused only on healing my mental, right? As if it's 6 feet from my body, right? And just seeing it as something separate. And though it did serve me for a little bit, it kind of was like you said about that vehicle. There may be movement, but there will be those bumps because maybe the engine's off a little bit or something like that, and it won't eventually stop. So I remember I was at a place where I was able to recognize and start to realize, I was in a place in my healing journey where I started to recognize and realize, hey, I'm starting to slow down. But I feel that there's something more that needs to be addressed, and that is where this whole concept of holistic healing came into play, where I'm just like, I'm not just a brain, I have a body.
Yeah.
There's also the spirit as well. Healing myself holistically, not just focusing to one exclusive part. You know, it seemed that, at least in my life, you know, new to the healing journey, you know, so I just focused on the mental,
Yeah.
right? And though that served me for for a time, it wasn't the end all be all. And for me to get further, I'm a lot further now in life, in my healing journey, and I think that to the holistic part. And it just shows that, looking back, I'm like, it it's so important. I wish I had someone say what you just said.
Yeah.
I wish I had that, and the people that have helped me, they have helped me greatly,
Mm.
greatly. Um, and so I'm grateful that I got to eventually realize, after, just connecting with the universe, sends me little downloads here, not little, it sends me downloads every now and then, a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But it's that concept of holistic healing, and it clicked when I started my PhD, and that term holistic, I finally knew what it meant. And so it's like all these things that the universe has been telling me, it like kind of confirmed it in my PhD program when we were had to go over the concept of holistic, just
Yeah.
that concept. And that was just, I mean, so now, I prioritize all of it. I may not be perfect at it because, like you said, sometimes life, will happen and I'm just not going to be perfect at it. But I pri I attempt to, and do prioritize, you know, all of it. I recognize all of it. How about that? Like,
Yeah.
I may lack in one over the other, depending on where I'm at in life, but I still acknowledge and attend to all of it, even if it's just a little bit. I tell myself a little bit is better than none, because
Oh yeah.
this society can be so demanding. It's a very fast paced, very, someone said a couple years ago, we live in kind of like a drive-through society. Everything's just fast paced. Here's caffeine to keep going this fast paced. You know, sleep
Yeah.
less, work
Yeah.
more.
Wear that as a badge of honor. I
Yeah,
only get 4 hours of sleep a night. It's like, yeah, that's not good.
right. That's not good. And eventually, like, it caught up to me. And so, yes, so I loved what you said. And I love the analogy you used. I'm going to use that because it was hard for me to kind of verbalize this at first. So you verbalized it fabulously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I hope you're not too hard on yourself because
Oh, no, not at all.
yourself, you're relatively young.
Yes.
I mean, getting your PhD, I'm guessing you're in their late 20s, maybe 30s or something. But you know,
Yes.
I'm at an age where everybody under
28.
looks 18. So I was like, God, an 18-year-old getting his PhD, that's pretty cool. But
I look it. I look I look super young. I'm 28, but I look a lot younger, people say. So that's why I purposely grow a mustache and a goatee, just a little bit. Just 'cause I was like,
um, a lot of the people I work with, not exclusively, but I'd say the majority, 80% ish, are 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Rarely do I work with anybody in their 20s, a teenager, let alone a little kid. Usually, if it's a little kid, their parents are struggling because they've been to everybody and they heard about hypnotherapy, and that's the last resort. Actually, that's with a lot of people. This is our last resort, doing hypnotherapy.
"Mm,
And in and of itself, we see, going back to the car analogy, you know, we would like it to be like in a NASCAR race, um, or Formula One or something. You pull into the pit, and the pit crew comes out, and there's like
mm."
10 people, and there's like three people on each tire, and there's somebody doing the oil and somebody doing the gas and somebody washing the window and somebody giving the guy Gatorade and whatever. And that's not the way you fix a car. It looks cool and it'd be super awesome if that's the way you fixed a car, but it's not. I mean, 99.9% of the time, it's just one person at a rundown garage and the car's up on up on a lift, and it's one tire, and then tomorrow they'll fix the other tire, and then maybe they'll get the transmission, and then a week later you get your car back. And that's the way a lot of this works. And sometimes you just the way our consciousness and our focus seems to work, our conscious awareness seems to work. You just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And if the volume knob on the mindset issues are loudest because of patterns you see in relationships or patterns at work or family or whatever it is, self-soothing patterns of food or cigarettes or gambling or doom scrolling, whatever it may be, or maybe it's emotional patterns because of the grief or the loss or the anxiety or the sadness that's overwhelming and been there a long time. In and of itself, none of the emotions are bad.
Right.
I mean, I think we should, we're wired to feel the full spectrum of every emotion. It's just when you hold on to it. Grief is important to go
Yes.
through. Loss and sadness. Yeah, it'd be odd if you lose somebody important to you and you're just happy, and that'd be problematic and a head scratcher. No, of course you're going to be sad. You might be sad because your team lost or the show you loved is now over. Yeah, that's fine. It's just when 5 years later you're still sad.
Right.
5 years later you're still angry. And maybe that anger is due to trauma or abuse you went through, bullying at school or trauma at home, abuse at home, growing up in an unsafe home. Maybe it was just a one-time incident. Maybe it happened over years. And the subconscious mind, just due to its safety protocols and trying to keep you safe and protected, may hold on to that at a very loud volume because it doesn't want to experience it again. And so there may need, assistance in that to resolve some of those issues. So the volume knob's not on a 10. In and of itself, you don't want to get rid of anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear is what keeps you from walking down that dark alley at midnight, even though it's a short. What keeps you from peering over the edge of the tall building or the Grand Canyon.
Right. Like if I see a tiger escape from the zoo, it tells me, well, don't go pet that tiger because it looks
you're
cool.
out in the desert. I live here in Arizona, up in the mountains of Arizona, but down in the desert, down south in Phoenix and Tucson and all that, you're walking out in the desert. There may be a rattlesnake in the trail. That's not your friend. You're out in Alaska or you're out in the Yellowstone or something, and there's a grizzly bear. We got ushered out of a hiking area by rangers because there's a mama grizzly and her cubs.
Oh.
They're like, okay, you all need to leave, and they're very nice, friendly, but you need to leave now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's like, because they're not your friends.
Right.
You want to go play with the baby cubs. Mama grizzly's not going to like that.
Right.
And so that anxiety and that fear, and while the rangers were very nice and polite about it, you could tell there was some tension there. You need to get out of this area. Is there anybody else in here? It's like, yeah, we saw a dude hiking with a backpack way back there. It's like, okay, thanks. Keep going. And that anxiety and fear moves you along and keeps you safe and alive. The fire coming out your house, if you didn't have fear and anxiety, here, and it's very dry up here, and we're up in the forest, Flagstaff, Arizona, the world's largest pine tree forest. It gets dry sometimes if we don't get enough rain and snow. We're at 7,000 feet. So Denver can suck it. We're higher than Denver. And a lot of people come up here, a lot of Olympic athletes come up here to train, as well as other professional athletes. And but if we don't get enough snow and enough rain, fire is a real big danger. And there's been times when fire has raced through the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
And this one time a few years ago, there was a big, huge fire, and I was going out into no man's land, out into the high desert. So it wasn't a problem until the wind shifted, unbeknownst to anybody that it was going to do that. The wind shifted, and we knew people had like 15 minutes.
Mhm.
knock on the door. You got 15 minutes to get out and get out now. What are you going to take? You know, and so it's that anxiety and that stress and that fear that keeps you alive. So
Yes.
in and of itself, you don't want to get rid of it, but it doesn't
Right.
need to be on a volume level of 10,
Right.
24
Right.
hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. Exactly.
And even the people who are constantly happy and joyful,
Mhm.
um, and there is loss of family or friends or pets, of job, of finances, and they're still happy and joyful. Well, okay, so I don't know. That might be a problem too.
Yeah.
If you're not allowing yourself to grieve, not allowing yourself to feel sad about the loss,
Yes.
that might be a problem too. So it's just this humanness that we have to go through. And sometimes you
Right.
focus on the mental, sometimes you finally get the mental fixed out and like, oh, now I got to deal with the emotional. The emotional figured out, it's like, now my lower back hurts.
Yeah.
I guess
Well, I
welcome to
know
being
that
human.
feeling. Yeah, welcome to being human. Yes, exactly. I definitely been there. I was like, oh my gosh, it just. I said this before. I was like, it just doesn't stop. Um, Something that I did want to clarify. I currently,
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, uh,
right. So I,
that's a
mhm,
extraordinary insight at 28. Um, Not to sound like an old man or anything, but yeah, it's just one of those things you got to be vigilant about. And again,
yeah,
it's like taking care of your car. Going back to the car analogy,
yeah,
um, you don't get to just drive your car
yeah,
um,
right,
and expect it to be in great shape. You got to take care of it. You
right.
got to do the maintenance. I know people who are like physically out of shape, eat
Mhm,
junk food and smoke and drink too much beer and don't physically exercise and watch TV and they're out of shape and overweight and yet take pristine care of their car because it doesn't register to them. It's like, what do you mean? No, you got to change the oil.
mhm,
You got to make sure there's enough air in your tires up here in this altitude. You got to make sure there's enough air in the tire. And you got what? You got to change it. Wait, you haven't changed your air filter? You got to change your air filter. And they'll take pristine care of their car. And yeah, it's 400,000 miles and it looks amazing,
mhm,
but they don't register that they need to take care of their bodies as well,
mhm,
because they're heading towards a heart attack here real
mhm,
quick. But their car will absolutely take care of
mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something that you had mentioned earlier. So, and I'm glad you mentioned it. So currently, now in my life, I don't beat myself up over it, but I used to. I started that way. And so it definitely was a journey and a process.
yeah,
Um, and it definitely took grace and understanding my inner child, listening to inner child as well, um, to get where I'm at now, so, but yeah, so folks, I want to put it out there, like saying that, I didn't have cloudy, rainy days. Sometimes I had hurricane days, but where I'm at now is not where I always was. So it sounds easy now because I was talking the other day to someone about how, a lot of the times when we see like, celebrities or super huge influencers speak about, being where they're at now, but we don't hear about what it took to get there. We don't hear about the times that they wanted to give up, the times that they gave up, the times that they started back up again. We don't hear that. And it's just, I'm like, you know, what if someone's listening and they're in that I feel like giving up moment? And so they're thinking they might internalize that something's wrong with them when really they're just on the process that the celebrity that they're looking up to was on as well. They're just not told that. So,
yeah, yeah. And I
mhm,
think in this, the way we're getting our information, there's just not enough time. You get 10 minutes on the talk show,
mhm,
that gets cut down to 30 seconds for social media. But if you go out there and you read their 400-page autobiography or their 400-page biography, it tells you all those
that's
stories.
true. That is true. A
you
lot
know
of them.
and it's just there's just not enough time nowadays the way we get our information and our entertainment.
Mhm,
Everybody's complaining about the movies that come out nowadays, like the big time movies that are out nowadays are like 2.5 hours, like the ones that are
Hmm.
coming out right now. Um, Everybody's, oh, 2.5 hours. It's almost, oh, it's like 2 hours and 50 minutes plus previews. I was like, I don't have time for that. And um, we're used to now scrolling and getting we're not involved in 30 seconds, or even less than that, probably 5, 6 seconds. There's this interesting thing about how Spotify is changing the way people write music, because to get marked off as a listen, somebody has to listen to the song for at least 30 seconds, right? And so it's changing the way people write music, that they hook them within the first 5 or 6 seconds. Whereas like these longer songs, like you may like, people may not know, but um, Where the Streets Have No Name by U2. That's like a minute 20-second intro of that organ fill that gets bigger and bigger and bigger until the song finally comes in. Some
Hmm.
Pink Floyd songs, Wish You Were Here, and other songs. There's a huge introduction before the song,
Right,
quote
right.
unquote, the song starts, and that's no more.
What
You
was
have,
it before?
you just hear the song on the radio.
No, I mean like the 30-second thing. Like what was it before? Like was it like 5 seconds?
Oh, well, it was people generally switch the song. If they're not interested, will switch the song or scroll through to the next thing within 4 or 5 seconds.
Mhm.
So you have 4 or 5 seconds to grab their attention. In terms of Spotify, it's
Okay.
not considered a listen, therefore payment due, unless the person listened for 30 seconds or more.
Mhm.
And so people need to grab your attention with the song within the first 5 seconds. You know,
Gotcha.
and so if there's a big intro, like strings or a big organ buildup,
Right, right,
or
right.
um, something, and then the song really gets going in minute
Hmm.
2 or 3 of this 8-minute epic song, that's no more.
Right.
Because
Okay.
radio, well, no one's listening to radio anymore,
Right.
and it's so easy to switch to the next song.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any, unless it's a deep cut on the album. It's the last track on the album or something. But then again, nobody's listening to albums anymore, kind
Hmm.
of thing. And again, it's fine. That's the way it used to be. People only bought singles, those little 7-inch little singles they bought back in
Hmm.
the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Everything was songs until the Beatles and the Beach Boys started making albums where every song was awesome.
Yeah.
People started buying albums.
Yeah.
And Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, all these groups started making albums where every song was great.
Mm-hmm.
And so people start buying albums, and now people are back to just buying a song.
That's true. Yeah. Singles. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
Oh.
how we got there. That's a
Well, that's what I love about vulnerability time. It's very conversational. It could start
yeah,
at point A and just end at point Z, and that's
point
okay.
92.
Yes, that's right.
Not even on the alphabet anymore.
That's perfect. Before my last question, I do want to share something a little funny for folks. So Craig is completely right on the fear and anxiety thing. It doesn't work for me when it comes to venomous snakes. I love a venomous snake. I tried to get a pet, but it went out of stock. This was during the pandemic time. I was gonna get it as a graduation gift to myself for graduating undergrad. Now, it was probably a blessing in disguise. It most likely was. It is a blessing in disguise because I was gonna end up in the hospital. I I just was, and so
But
um,
there's people who are like they're attracted to snakes. There's a whole field.
yeah,
There's
but you don't go and touch a venomous snake, which was I was planning to do. You don't do that, Josias. You don't you
yeah.
don't do that.
That's not a
You gotta
hobby.
not do that. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. But
There's
like snakes, I get, but venomous snakes, what is
yeah.
what? Like who?
Yeah, you want to start with a
Why?
nice garden snake or
Oh,
something.
those are
You
beautiful.
want to
Those
start
are
with the cobras and the rattlesnakes.
right. And
Well,
yeah.
but there's adrenaline rush at the possibility of spending $10,000 for anti venom or whatever.
They are expensive in this country.
Yeah.
be honest.
That would keep me away from it. Wait, how much is it? Nah, no
That's a
thanks.
good point. I wasn't thinking that. That definitely would have played a factor. But
Yeah,
the pandemic said we're going to go out of stock for until things open back up. I was like, all right. All right. And then ever since then, I kind of lost the interest a little
yeah.
bit, enough to not like buy it now. My priorities have changed. My adventures have changed. But so now I
Good thing
do.
you realize that before you bought the snake. That would suck if you bought the snake and then just like, snakes. Why'd I do that for? Then you guys go on Facebook Marketplace and try to get rid of a snake.
I did buy three sharks though. And
Sure.
they all died very quickly. And
Um,
turns out it was my fault with the water. I didn't know. Um, but which was probably a good thing because I'm sure my finger would have gotten off because
yeah,
it's me.
yeah.
So, but anyway, so now I do skydiving. But good
Jesus.
to say, great news is that the fear and anxiety is there.
Okay. Well,
That's
yeah. I'm sure there's got to be a
But
semi
with the
hesitation
snakes,
right
it
before you
wasn't.
step out of the plane.
Hmm.
I'm sure there's got to be a slight hesitation before you step out of the plane.
Oh, 1,000. The
Yeah.
first time there wasn't, but the second time, oh, 1,000. 1,000%. I'm going next month too. A week
Yeah.
after we
Do
record.
you do it by yourself, or are you strapped to somebody?
Yes, I'm strapped to someone, which definitely helps, is because you have to take tons of classes
Oh yeah.
to get, and I'm just like, maybe I can look at that after I finish my PhD, but
Yeah.
doing that while the PhD, there's just no absolute.
Oh. Oh yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not doing that. Yeah, I
Do that
can't
afterwards.
do that. Um, Real quick, Craig, I see
Yeah.
we have about 11 minutes left. I want to take some time to, well, how about this? Do you think we have, if I ask you how to, where is it? How to create more confidence in life?
Oh. Yeah.
Do you think we can get that in? If,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also want time for you to share about your work, your
Sure.
podcast, and where we can find you.
Well, confidence in and of itself is something you can transfer, if you will, to anything in life. Is something you can learn and train for. Because you're confident in a great many things in life. You may not feel that way because you got a big presentation at the conference.
Mm,
You're like, I don't feel confident in that at all. Or somebody's may want to do stand-up comedy and they're not confident to go to the open mic. It's like, yet I would suggest that you're confident that you can tie your shoes. You're confident that you can lock the front door. You're confident you could drive down the street. You're confident in a great many things. You're confident you can get up maybe out of the chair and walk across the room to get a glass of water.
mhm,
Well, let's go back to the tying of the shoes. There was a time when you were not very confident about tying your shoes. It was very difficult. You actually had to have somebody do it for you.
mhm,
And you learned and you trained and you practiced. And now you can tie your shoes. You can zip up your jacket. You can lock the front door. You can drive the car or ride the bicycle or whatever the
mhm,
thing is. And so you're confident in a great many things. You may not be confident in giving the speech or asking that person out on the first date or something else. So a lot of it is transferring the confidence you already have in life, even if it's something as what you may consider small and silly as tying your shoes. That's confidence. It's small and silly because you're confident.
yeah,
And so therefore you don't think it's a big deal. Uh, Again, there was a time when you weren't good at it and you had to have somebody's help.
yeah,
Yes, okay, granted you were 3 years old or whatever, but there was a time when you were not confident in a great many things.
yeah,
That even 2 + 2 = 4.
right.
Now you're confident in that. So where does that live in your body?
Mm,
That's the first thing. It's like again, we were talking on the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Where does confidence, let alone anxiety or anger, where does that live in your body? The body keeps the score according to that famous book.
yes. Oh,
Well,
yes.
it
The
keeps a
body keeps
score
the
of not only
score.
hurt and pain and trauma, but confidence and joy and happiness. And so, if that confidence you feel when tying your shoes is in your, let's just say, for example, I'll talk about myself. I would say, okay, well, I feel confidence in my chest. In fact, that's right in my heart. It's like, well, what color is confidence? Confidence is gold. And so, okay, well, I want you to sit and like, how big is it? Is it big, small,
Mm.
medium? It's like, yeah, it's about the size of a ping pong ball. Okay, great. Gold ping pong ball in the middle of your chest. I want you to expand it to the size of a basketball. I want you to expand it to the size that fills up your whole body. Now I want you to press your finger and thumb together because we're going to anchor this to touch.
Mm.
And now I want you to pretend you're in the future and you're giving that speech and you're getting a standing ovation. And I'm doing this all within 45 seconds. So you can imagine if we're taking an hour to do this and
Mm.
building it up. And we want to anchor it because neurons that fire together wire together. So brain cells in your head that fire at the same time will connect together, and they don't have to even Pavlov. People remember Pavlov from school. He rang the bell and the dogs would salivate. Well, that's because if you have a dog or cat, maybe not a snake, but if you have a dog or a cat, if you open up a bag of food or a can of food, they come running. They know it's not the doorbell. They know it's not the back door or the radio or whatever. And their digestive system will start turning on because they know they're getting fed. And they see the food, they smell the food, and hundreds of millions of neurons are firing in the brain,
Yeah.
little electric
Yeah.
pulses. And the brain wants ease and fast communication.
Mm-hmm.
It's all linked together. Well, Pavlov was like, I see my Great Dane whenever I feed the dog drools. There's so much saliva in the mouth because the digestive system is turning on. Physical response to hearing the food and seeing the food, smelling the food. I wonder if I ring a bell at the same time, if neurons that fire together will wire together.
Mm.
So he's ringing a bell, and now another million neurons is firing to register the sound of a bell. Brain cells that fire at the same time will connect together over time with practice. And so he eventually could, after practicing ringing the bell every time he fed his dogs, would take his dog out for a walk, ring the bell, and the dog would start salivating, even though there's no food around, because he anchored that sound,
Mm.
turning on the dog's digestive system, a physical response to that sound. And you can feel that, like with that song that reminds you of high school or summer vacation, or that smell that reminds you of your favorite restaurant, or your favorite food, or your grandmother's house.
Yeah.
Or you went to a lavender farm in the 6th grade, and now lavender reminds you of just 6th grade and how much fun that year was for you in school. So all these things are what we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, songs, music, maybe certain other kind of sounds, colors. A color of may remind you of a certain jacket you had when you were a little kid, or a
Right.
book, toy. But touch can do it too. And so, like pressing your finger or thumb together, um, the millions of neurons firing to press your finger and thumb together can wire to that confidence you have when tying your shoes. So now when you're giving the speech, press your finger and thumb together, that confidence comes right back. And so those are the techniques under the umbrella term of hypnotherapy. Those are the techniques. Round of applause.
Yeah, I'm applauding
Uh,
Craig,
um,
everyone. I know you can't see because we're not on video, but
oh, we're not on video. Okay.
right. We're speaking face
I
to
wore my
face, but
good shirt. I wore my good
oh,
shirt.
you
And
wanted it recorded, Craig?
oh no, you don't
Video?
have to.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought, because I was like,
I would have put my feet up, and I would have been so handsome. Would have combed my hair. Um, uh, and so there's all sorts of techniques and tools you can use to take the confidence you have in life and move it towards something that maybe you're not feeling so confident in at the moment. Maybe somebody's studying martial arts and they're doing a competition, not feeling so confident. Okay. Are you confident that you can do 20 push-ups? Well, yeah, I can definitely do that. Okay. Let's take that aspect of your physical being and apply it to this other aspect of your physical being. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to get a kick to the head, but
right.
it just means that you're confident you can get out on the mats in the ring or whatever, and actually do it without that panicking, putting on the brakes, putting on the brakes. And so you can do that with all, and you have more confidence in these things, your self-esteem builds up, your self-worth builds up, and it just has a cumulative effect of building yourself up more and more. But it's the practice of it. There's no magic wand where I tap people on the head and all of a sudden they're just better and different. There's all these techniques and tools you can use to get better.
Yes.
And even increase healing at a faster rate. Harvard did a study some years ago on broken legs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in this research study had a similar broken leg. Half the group just had a broken leg. They went to the doctor, got the x-ray, had the cast on. The other group had a broken leg. They went to the doctor, had an X-ray, had a cast on, and went to hypnotherapy sessions once a week. And the hypnotherapy sessions about healing acceleration and the bone fusing and feeling better and all this stuff. And the group who just had the cast on got their cast off in 8 weeks after the leg healed. The group who had the cast on and had hypnotherapy got the cast off in 5 weeks. 40% increase in healing. And so it didn't happen the next day, but they increased the speed of healing because they entered mind into the equation. Mind, emotions, body, spirit.
Right.
They used the whole human instead of just having the body heal the
Holistic.
body. They used mind and emotions, and they felt the healing energy move into the leg, and it healed.
Holistic healing.
Yeah. And so, imagine that kind of power. And again, that's a whole placebo effect. It's not fake healing. It's not, well, I guess it is tricking people into it, but it's the mind healing the body. And, like pharmaceutical companies have to account for that because they're going to accidentally influence people to heal themselves because they're doing this research on this high blood pressure medication, let's say, and the brochure about the research trial and the website where you sign up and the office, the research office you go to, and you sign the waiver and people are wearing white lab coats, and all that is influencing people to heal themselves, and they have to account for that. So they have the control group who get the sugar pill, and they see how many people get better. They know people will use mind to heal themselves. And so let's say 30% of the control group gets better. Let's say 40% of the people get better on the real medication. They actually have to subtract 30% because maybe they accidentally influenced them to heal as well. Medication had nothing to do with it. So really only 10% got better, and they'll put the drug on the market at $80 a pill. But more people actually got better in this example anyway. More people got better through mind. But there's no big payout at the end of it. There's no billion-dollar windfall for the stockholder.
Right.
You can't patent somebody's subconscious mind. You can't copyright somebody's subconscious mind. So let's create a pill that'll do it for you instead of teaching you how to do it yourself.
Yes, big pharma is very strategic.
And I forgot the question you asked 10 minutes ago, but I think
that's okay because, folks, check out part 2, which will happen, which will be this next episode coming up, which will be the next episode. So I'll release them within a day of each other. And so then on part 2, we can. But folks, check out Mark's links in the episode description below. But on part 2, Mark can talk more. Not Mark. Jesus. Craig, I'm terrible with names. You look like one of the guests.
You just hypnotized yourself.
I did. Look at me.
What is? See, and that's the thing. And here's a.
Craig was just looking at me.
Watch what you're saying to yourself, people.
It's true. It matters.
If you have a bad memory, like you go to networking events or you go to parties or you go to a new class or something, it's like, I can't remember anybody's name. I'm at a stage of life where I don't remember. Guess what? You're not going to remember anybody's name.
That's true. That is very true.
There's an aspect of that where your mind is focusing on other things that are more important. But if you decide that remembering somebody's name is super important, you'll remember people's names. It's just you're telling yourself, if you're telling yourself, man, this leg is going to take like 9 weeks to heal. Okay, what are the chances it's going to take 8-9 weeks to heal?
Right.
If you're telling yourself this leg is going to heal in 5 weeks, because I read a Harvard research study about it, what are the chances that your leg is going to heal in 5 weeks? And if you keep telling yourself, just notice what you're telling yourself, maybe in the background during your day, maybe very softly.
Yeah.
Are you good? Are you worthy? Are you worthy of that person, of that job, of that promotion, of that raise?
Right.
Or are you just like, no, it's really, they're going to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
No, I totally blew it on that last person. What are you telling yourself? You're hypnotizing yourself all the time. That's why we think the way we think about ourselves. Came from somewhere. It might have come from other people.
Right.
Come from the bullies at school or the teachers who said you weren't smart enough, or the parents who said you were no good and weren't going to amount to anything. Where does it come from? Because you weren't born that way.
Right.
You had to learn it from somewhere, and maybe it was unfortunately through a traumatic experience over many, many years.
Right.
You learned it somewhere, so that's very exciting because that means you can learn something else.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No. Hey, guess what? I received that.
That's into 2 hour range.
I received that what you just said. Thank you. I received that because that was a confirmation from the universe. The universe has been um, telling me about, it's time to focus on changing our wording.
Yeah,
And so I
and
always
it's
tell
just a
the,
human
Mhm.
reaction to a mistake,
Yeah,
you know? And